Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making a brand new recipe that not only have I never made before, I've actually never tasted before. So you're in on an experiment today. We'll see how it turns out. Come on in. Okay, so today's recipe that we're making is called English muffin bread. I've seen these recipes for years, always thought about trying them, and never did, but today we're going to. So, one of my dilemmas with this recipe is I have looked up, I think, 3 different versions of this recipe, and each version had the same amount of liquid and different amounts of flour and different techniques. So I don't really know what to do. I think one version had 4.5 cups of flour, which she only used 4. The other version had 6 cups of flour. That's a big difference, and it can make a huge, in my opinion, a huge difference in the texture and success of your dough. But both recipes seem to turn out fine. So I don't know. I think I'm going to go with 4.5 to 5 and then add more flour incrementally till I get the texture of dough that I want. Also, the third recipe uh, had 2 risings. So the first 2, you made up the dough, you put it in the pan, you let it rise for 45 minutes and baked it. The third recipe, you made up the dough, you left it in your bowl, and it was kneaded where the other 2 weren't. They were only mixed. And you let that rise, and then you took that out, divided it, put it in the pans, and let it rise again. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do today. We'll figure it out as we go. I am going to use my stand mixer bowl today just because it honestly is hard on my shoulder to mix it by hand, but you can. Like I only the third recipe that I watched used a mixing bowl and a mixer. Everybody else did it by hand. I have a shoulder injury. It is limiting, and so I don't want you to see me suffer on here. So I'm starting out with 3 cups of flour. I'm using all-purpose flour, and anyone who has watched any of my videos knows I do not like doing bread by cup measurement. The reason being is that there is often a huge discrepancy when you get a cup of flour and the weight it should be, it can be different every time. And so that's not a plus for me, which is why if you're going to bake, you really need to, one of 2 things. Well, the scale doesn't really help if you don't know what the weight of the flour should be. But beyond that, if you don't have a scale or you don't know what the weight should be, then you really need to begin to develop a feel and an intuition for what the dough should feel like. And that comes over time. So use the cup, just be aware you may have to alter liquid and dry ingredients. I'm putting 1 tablespoon of sugar. They called for 2 tablespoons of yeast, which seems like a lot to me, but we'll go with it and see what happens. I try to always at least once follow the recipe, and that's usually about as far as I get. I'm also adding 2 teaspoons of salt. And the surprise ingredient to me, something I've never put in bread before, is 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I don't know if that's for flavor. I don't know if that's what gives it the pockety holes that English muffins typically have, but we will see. Now I'm just going to mix those dry ingredients all together. And now I'm adding 2 cups of milk and 1/2 cup of water that has been warmed just, above room temperature. To be honest, I question that as well, but I'm following the recipe. So I'm going to start my mixer. Can I get it over here so that you can see? I kind of want you to see what the texture of this dough should be, theoretically, because I honestly don't know. So I'm just going to speed this up. You can kind of see it as it progresses. I added 1 cup of flour, mixed that in. I added another ½ cup of flour, let that mix, and then I put about 3 tablespoons in, and that's where I ended. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to stop. It's tacky, but it's not goopy, which the one recipe said to let it get goopy, but I just don't know. So that was about 4½ cups of flour with maybe 3 tablespoons else added in. So I'm just not going to take that out yet. Okay, so these pans have been sprayed. And now I'm just going to coat them with some cornmeal. Basically just on the bottom, a little bit up the side, not much. Okay, so I think I'm going to let this rise just for probably about 20 minutes. And then I'm going to divide it, put it in the pans, and we'll let it rise again. So I'll be back. This is what it looks like so far. It is soft for sure, but not liquidy like the other one that I watched. See you in a bit. Okay, guys, so this has been about 30 minutes. And okay, so it has risen, this one especially, up over the edge. This one, if you look at the top, it's over the edge. So this is where we're going to end. You can see air bubbles through the top. So I don't want it to get to the point where it's going to deflate when I put it in the oven. Putting it in the oven now, theoretically for about 25 minutes. Okay guys, so here are the 2 loaves coming out of the oven. They look pretty good. I'm going to tip them out onto the cooling rack. They came out nice and easy. At least that one did. as did that one. So tapping them, they sound nice and hollow. I'm going to flip them over on the bottom, and I'm just going to cover them with a tea towel till they cool, and then I'll be back to slice into it, see how they turned out. This is the hard part, waiting. Okay, here we go, guys. We're going to cut this up and see how it turned out. So it isn't the texture I really want. I really want the lots of holes, big holes, maybe because it's still warm. Let's check the flavor. I had to cut it a little bit early because I already have people hovering, wanting to try it. Okay, so we've got butter. It's actually really good. So the texture is really good. Doesn't taste exactly like English muffins, but I honestly don't know that you could replicate that in a loaf. So in a pinch, when you don't feel like frying each muffin individually, this is a good substitute. Now I want to taste it toasted. That's going to be the real test. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you try it. If you enjoy my videos, you want to subscribe to my channel, hit subscribe down below, and see you the next time.